Tropical Storm Arthur formed on May 16th and dissipated on May 19th with maximum wind speeds of 60 miles per hour and a pressure of 990 millibars. Arthur dropped over 3 inches of rain in the Bahamas where people were still recovering from Hurricane Dorian. Arthur's low-end tropical storm force winds damaged tents and temporary shelters in the Bahamas. Luckily, nobody was killed. In the United States, Arthur dropped over 4 inches of rain in portions of Florida and North Carolina. Arthur prompted dozens of water rescues in Florida from rip currents, 3 of which required hospitalization. Again, nobody died. Waves as high as 12 feet were recorded in the water off the coast of North Carolina, and Arthur caused at least $112,000 in damages. Tropical storm Bertha formed on May 27th and dissipated the next day on May 28th with maximum wind speeds of 50 miles an hour and a pressure of 1,005 millibars. Bertha was the cause for widespread rainfall over 2 inches across the Carolinas and caused moderate flooding. Some power outages were reported, but otherwise damage remained minimal. Unfortunately, Bertha caused the death of a man who drowned in a rip current. Bertha caused over $62,000 in damage. Tropical storm Cristobal formed on June 1st and dissipated on June 12th. Cristobal broke records for being the farthest northwest a tropical system has ever tracked. Portions of Mexico received over 20 inches of rain, causing numerous landslides after Cristobal lingered and was nearly stationary over the country. 85% of Yucatan's crops and farms were lost from Cristobal and was devastating for millions of people. 11 were killed in Mexico. In the United States, Cristobal caused 5 feet of storm surge in Louisiana that caused moderate flooding. Cristobal was the cause of numerous tornadoes, including a damaging one in downtown Orlando in Florida. Cristobal dropped as much as 20 inches of rain in Florida as well. Cristobal then brought gusty winds and heavy rain to the Midwest as it moved into Canada. 4 people in the United States were killed, and Cristobal caused at least $665 million in damage. Tropical storm Dolly formed on June 22nd and dissipated 2 days later on June 24th. Its max wind speeds of 45 miles an hour and a pressure of 1,002 millibars. Little to no impacts were received from the system by anyone except for boaters experiencing rough seas. Tropical storm Edouard formed on July 4th and dissipated July 7th with maximum wind speeds of 45 miles an hour and a pressure of 1,007 millibars. Bermuda had gale warnings in effect and strong winds were seen on the island, but impacts remained minimal. The United Kingdom also received minor impacts from the system when it was extratropical moving over to Europe, where impacts were also minimal. Tropical storm Faye formed on July 9th and dissipated July 12th with maximum wind speeds of 60 miles an hour and a pressure of 998 millibars. Very heavy rain moved through the southeast into New England, with some rainfall totals exceeding 10 inches. Many roads and highways were impassable. Faye also produced a few tornadoes that caused localized damage. Widespread power outages and tree damage was reported in the Northeast, and unfortunately 6 people were killed as a result from Faye, and it caused at least $350 million in damage. Tropical storm Gonzalo formed on July 21st and dissipated on July 25th with maximum wind speeds of 65 miles an hour and a pressure of 997 millibars. Gonzalo was forecast to become a hurricane before Saharan dust destroyed it. The only damage reported from Gonzalo was a tree down on a road and a damaged bus stop in Tobago. Hurricane Hanna formed on July 23rd and dissipated on July 27th with maximum wind speeds of 90 miles per hour and a pressure of 973 millibars. Hanna was the first hurricane of the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season. In Texas, where Hurricane Hanna made landfall, over 150,000 people lost power and over 6 inches of rain fell, causing moderate flooding. Some marinas were severely damaged or destroyed, and supplies were limited due to COVID-19. In Mexico, slow-moving Hanna severely flooded dozens of roads, prompting many water rescues in the country. Heavy rains and damaging winds damaged dozens of structures in Mexico. Unfortunately, 5 people were killed from Hanna, and damages were at least $875 million. Hurricane Isaias formed on July 30th and dissipated on August 6th, with maximum wind speeds of 85 miles per hour with a pressure of 987 millibars. In the Bahamas, Isaias brought heavy rains and winds that damaged roofs and toppled trees in the entire country. In Florida, hundreds lost power from downed power lines from the powerful winds, and the Carolinas received the worst impacts. Dozens of homes were severely damaged, with a few completely destroyed from a fire Isaias caused. Isaias also caused a tornado outbreak from the Carolinas into the mid-Atlantic, with at least 15 tornado warnings, including a PDS one. Isaias in total left over 400,000 people without power and 18 lost their life. Isaias caused at least $5.2 billion in damage. Tropical Depression 10 formed on July 31st and dissipated August 2nd, with maximum wind speeds of 35 miles per hour with a pressure of 1,007 millibars. Minor impacts were received in the Verde Islands as the storm rapidly weakened out to sea. Tropical Storm Josephine formed on August 11th and dissipated August 16th, with maximum wind speeds of 45 miles per hour and a pressure of 1,004 millibars. Minimal impacts were seen in the Leeward Islands, and there is no recorded damage caused by Josephine. Tropical Storm Kyle formed on August 14th and dissipated August 16th with maximum wind speeds of 50 miles per hour and a pressure of 1,000 millibars. Kyle did little to no damage to the United States. However, Kyle merged with Superstorm Ellen, which brought severe wind gusts to the United Kingdom and Ireland, significantly damaging many structures. There are no recorded deaths caused directly by Kyle. Major Hurricane Laura formed on August 20th and dissipated August 29th with maximum wind speeds of 150 miles per hour and a pressure of 937 millibars. Laura was the first major hurricane of the 2020 season. Severe flooding occurred in the Dominican Republic and Haiti, where Laura dropped over 6 inches of rain and caused widespread flooding and landslides. The flooding damaged over 2,000 homes in both countries. In Cuba, Laura also brought heavy rain, but also brought some widespread damaging winds. Wind gusts peak at 90 miles per hour, ripping off roofs and trees out of the ground. Rainfall reached 10 inches in some areas. In Jamaica, flash flooding across the country damaged roads and a few homes. Some bridges were washed out under the 6 inches of rain that fell. In the United States, Laura caused catastrophic damage and also brought the threat of tornadoes on top of damaging winds and flooding. In the Florida Keys, damaging winds as high as 90 miles per hour severely damaged homes in the area. In Louisiana, storm surge reached well over 10 feet, putting entire towns completely underwater. Dozens of structures were critically damaged or destroyed, and many lost their lives. When the flood level went down, it revealed complete destruction in some areas. The National Hurricane Center used strong wording such as unsurvivable storm surge expected in the state. In Texas, flooding and damaging winds also killed a few people. The primary threat in Texas was tornadoes, which numerous were reported that caused localized damage. Many roads were blocked in the state from debris from structures and downed trees. In Mississippi, impacts were less significant, with the primary threat being tornadoes, which a few were reported, but most were weak. In total, Major Hurricane Laura took the lives of 77 people and caused at least $14.1 billion in damage. Hurricane Marco formed on August 20th and dissipated on August 26th with maximum wind speeds of 75 miles per hour and a pressure of 991 millibars. Marco was forecast to significantly impact Louisiana, but luckily shear and dry air completely killed the system before tropical storm landfall. Marco, however, still took a huge toll on Mexico, where nearly 20 inches of rain fell. Marco, after weakening into a depression, brought heavy rain and flash flooding to Oklahoma, where damage was caused. Overall, Marco killed one person and caused over $35 million in damage. Tropical Storm Omar formed on August 31st and dissipated on September 5th, with maximum wind speeds of 40 miles per hour and a pressure of 1,003 millibars. Minimal impacts were seen from Omar in the United States, mainly in the form of some gusty winds below tropical storm force. Otherwise, in the coastal Carolinas, Omar brought life-threatening rip currents. Omar then impacted the United Kingdom moderately, bringing heavy rain and gusty winds. Nobody died from the storm, and it caused less than $1,000 in damage. Hurricane Hanna formed on September 1st and dissipated September 4th, with maximum wind speeds of 75 miles per hour and a pressure of 994 millibars. Hanna produced over 4 inches of rain and brought gusty winds of 30 miles per hour in the Windward Islands, causing minor damage there. Due to the flooding in St. Lucia, heavy rain caused the country to shut off all water to most residents in the country. In Belize, Hanna made landfall as a hurricane, where hundreds of acres of crops were lost. Dozens of structures and homes had roof damage, and roads were flooded with over 4 inches of water. Overall, Hanna luckily caused no deaths, but caused at least $20 million in damage. Hurricane Paulette formed on September 7th and dissipated on September 30th with maximum wind speeds of 105 miles per hour and a pressure of 965 millibars. Paulette was the first hurricane to make landfall in Bermuda since 2014. In Bermuda, Paulette lashed the country with tropical storm and occasionally hurricane-force wind speeds, causing over 20,000 residents to lose power. Some lost power for weeks. No severe property damage was reported, though dozens of trees and power lines got blown down in the country. In the United States, waves from Paulette as high as 10 feet struck portions of the East Coast, unfortunately killing a man caught in rough conditions. Overall, Paulette killed one person and caused at least $1 million in damage. Tropical Storm Rene formed on September 7th and dissipated on September 14th, with maximum wind speeds of 50 miles per hour and a pressure of 1,000 millibars. Rene managed to strengthen into a tropical storm despite substantial shear levels that would have rapidly weakened any other system. Rene brought gusty winds and heavy rains to the Verde Islands, but no serious damage was recorded. Overall, Tropical Storm Rene caused no deaths and caused less than $5,000 in damage. Hurricane Sally formed on September 11th and dissipated on September 18th with maximum wind speeds of 105 miles per hour and a pressure of 965 millibars. The sudden intensification and sudden eastern shift in track surprised many people. In Florida, Sally caused widespread flooding in the Miami area after dropping well over 4 inches of rain to many areas. On the Florida Panhandle, some areas saw over 36 inches of rain, bringing entire towns underwater, on top of 5 feet of storm surge. Sally was truly a disastrous hurricane for millions of people. In Mississippi, Sally brought gusty winds and heavy rain. Some rainfall totals exceeded 4 inches. Most impacts in Mississippi came from downed trees and power lines. In Alabama, over a foot of rain fell in some areas, and they received the brunt of the wind damage. Dozens of structures were heavily damaged, with weaker structures destroyed. Multiple state of emergencies were also declared. Overall, Sally killed 8 people and caused over $5 billion in damage and caused over 500,000 power outages. Major Hurricane Teddy formed on September 12th and dissipated September 23rd with maximum wind speeds of 140 miles per hour and a pressure of 945 millibars. Hurricane Teddy grew an impressively large wind field as it kept expanding and turning subtropical in nature. In Bermuda, 220 people lost power and beach erosion was reported. In the United States, storm surge as high as 3 feet was reported, and gusty winds brought down some trees in Massachusetts. Canada received the most impacts, with over 6 inches of rain being dropped on Nova Scotia and widespread tropical storm force winds. Occasional hurricane force winds were also reported. Over 20,000 lost power in Nova Scotia. Overall, Teddy killed 3 people from drowning and caused around $1 million in damage. Tropical Storm Vicky formed on September 14th and dissipated September 17th with maximum wind speeds of 50 miles per hour and a pressure of 1,000 millibars. Despite incredibly strong shear tearing the system apart, it somehow managed to strengthen into a tropical storm. Vicky produced widespread flooding in the Verde Islands, and overall, Vicky killed 1 person from flooding and caused minimal damage. Tropical Storm Wilfred formed on September 18th and dissipated on September 21st with maximum wind speeds of 50 miles per hour and a pressure of 996 millibars. Wind shear and generalized unfavorable conditions prevented much strengthening from the system, and no impacts were seen from anyone from Wilfred. Subtropical Storm Alpha formed on September 18th and dissipated on September 19th, with maximum wind speeds of 50 miles per hour and a pressure of 996 millibars. Alpha severely damaged Portugal, bringing down hundreds of trees and damaging dozens of vehicles. Scattered power outages were also reported in the country. Extreme street flooding became persistent in many big cities, and a radio tower also collapsed that was damaged beyond repair. Alpha was a massive disaster for Portugal. In Spain, Alpha derailed a train and collapsed a few roofs in the country, and also brought isolated flash flooding. Overall, Alpha killed 1 person and caused at least $1 million in damage. Tropical Storm Beta formed on September 17th and dissipated on September 25th, with maximum wind speeds of 60 miles per hour and a pressure of 994 millibars. Not only did Beta damage a hurricane hunter flight, it also caused widespread tornado warnings, with localized tornado damage. Storm surge and high waves destroyed multiple piers in Texas. Multiple highways in Texas were completely underwater, with 911 dispatch centers receiving dozens of rescue calls. Despite the gusty winds bringing additional damage to homes in Texas and Louisiana, Beta's remains in the Carolinas caused a severe weather event, bringing hail larger than 2 inches and a tornado. Overall, Tropical Storm Beta killed 1 person and caused at least $100 million in damage. Tropical Storm Gamma formed on October 2nd and dissipated October 7th, with maximum wind speeds of 70 miles per hour and a pressure of 980 millibars. In Mexico, Gamma intensified more than anticipated, prompting hurricane warnings to be issued. Gamma brought several inches of rain to Mexico, causing widespread flooding and frequent landslides that severely damaged villages. 7 people in Mexico were killed from Gamma, and over 5,000 were displaced from their homes. Moisture associated with Gamma then moved over Florida, causing flooding there. Overall, Gamma caused 7 deaths and caused at least $2 million in damage. Hurricane Delta formed on October 5th and dissipated October 12th, with maximum wind speeds of 145 miles per hour and a pressure of 953 millibars. Delta did extreme rapid intensification from a tropical storm to a Category 4 hurricane in just 28 hours. Delta then rapidly weakened once it struck land, luckily. In Mexico, Delta brought down dozens of power lines and trees, and many piers were destroyed from the storm surge. Isolated flash flooding was caused as well, with over 4 inches of rain falling. In the United States, 740,000 lost power. In Texas, winds blew away street signs, trees, and even blown roofs off of houses. Storm surge did some damage, such as destroying piers, but it was not as high as anticipated. In Louisiana, Delta dropped over 8 inches of rain across the state. Several homes were completely flooded and damaged further, especially those not fully repaired from previously landfalling Hurricane Laura. A hotel also had its entire roof ripped off from Delta. In Mississippi, Delta downed at least 100 trees in the state, some large, and some homes were destroyed from toppling trees. Apartments and other houses' roofs were severely damaged from the system. Many highways in the state were shut down from debris, and flooding was less of a concern, but some isolated areas saw significant water rises. Turning post-tropical in the southeast, Delta caused a localized tornado outbreak, prompting over a dozen tornado warnings in less than a 24-hour period. Most of the tornadoes were weak and only damaged trees and minorly damaged homes. Overall, Delta caused 6 deaths and at least $2.5 billion in damage. Hurricane Epsilon formed on October 19th and dissipated October 26th with maximum wind speeds of 115 miles per hour and a pressure of 951 millibars. Epsilon oddly rapidly intensified over cold waters into a major hurricane, and this is the farthest east a system has ever rapidly intensified this late in the season. Bermuda received some impacts from Epsilon, but were very minor. Overall, Epsilon did not kill anyone and did less than $100,000 in damage. Hurricane Zeta formed on October 24th and dissipated on November 2nd with maximum wind speeds of 110 miles per hour and a pressure of 970 millibars. Zeta caused numerous landslides in Jamaica, causing hundreds of millions of dollars in damage. In Mexico, Zeta downed hundreds of trees and tree branches across the country. Overall impacts in Mexico were minor, though. In Louisiana, Zeta caused widespread tropical storm-force winds and some local hurricane-force winds. Multiple buildings were damaged and numerous trees fell, some on homes. The eye of Zeta moved directly over New Orleans and caused widespread damage in the city. Multiple roofs collapsed and power lines were snapped. Zeta dropped over 6 inches of rain to the state as well. In Mississippi, Zeta caused numerous tornadoes, causing localized damage, and storm surge completely flooded multiple homes and parking garages within the coast. Mobile homes were also severely damaged in the state. In Alabama, Zeta caused over 6 feet of storm surge in some areas in the state as winds damaged trees and power lines throughout the state. Impacts inland in Alabama remained relatively minor. Zeta then moved into the southeastern United States, causing very widespread power outages and widespread gusty winds. The remnants of Zeta then impacted the United Kingdom on November 1st, prompting 40-plus flood warnings and additional wind damage. Overall, Zeta killed 8 people and caused at least $3.2 billion in damage. Major Hurricane Eta formed on October 31st and dissipated on November 14th, with maximum wind speeds of 150 miles per hour and a pressure of 923 millibars. Eta was a catastrophic hurricane for hundreds of thousands of people. In Nicaragua, Eta blasted the country with 140-plus mile-per-hour winds and even higher gusts. Dozens of houses collapsed and many roofs were ripped off. Trees and power lines were snapped, and entire streets were flooded with several inches of water and surge. In the Honduras, at least 400 homes were destroyed from floodwaters, 9 bridges were destroyed, leaving hundreds trapped in their villages. Walls of a prison collapsed, and many large structures were heavily damaged from landslides and floods. Well over 2 feet of rain fell in most areas. In Guatemala, at least 50 homes were destroyed from more floodwaters, as over a foot of rain fell in the country. A severe landslide in the country buried over 150 homes, and rescue operations were called off after only 2 days after it was deemed too dangerous. In Belize, Eta dropped several inches of rain in many communities, leaving scattered damage throughout the country. In Mexico, Eta caused dozens of mudslides and over 2,000 homes were destroyed from the hurricane. Many neighborhoods were completely under several feet of water. Eta then made a drastic curve towards the United States, hitting Florida first with over 50-mile-per-hour winds, and Eta dropped well over 2 feet of rain, even in the city of Miami. Hundreds of vehicles were damaged and stalled out, and dozens needed to be rescued. Eta downed multiple trees in the state. The remnants of Eta associated with extra moisture caused widespread flooding in the Carolinas later on, killing dozens of people as water levels rose numerous feet, devastating many cities. Overall, Eta killed at least 200 people and caused at least $3.2 billion in damage. Tropical storm Theta formed on November 10th and dissipated on November 15th with maximum wind speeds of 70 miles per hour and a pressure of 989 millibars. Theta stayed out to sea and posed little to no threat to land, and was forecasted to become a Category 1 hurricane, but then shear weakened it. Theta did not kill anyone and caused almost no damage. Major Hurricane Iota formed on November 13th and dissipated on November 18th, with maximum wind speeds of 160 miles per hour and a pressure of 917 millibars. Iota struck the same area Eta did, destroying all buildings that weren't already destroyed. In Venezuela, over 250 homes were completely flooded and inhabitable. Thousands lost power, and trees and power lines went down. In Colombia, heavy rains caused many landslides and mudslides, causing the deaths of numerous people and damaging many houses. Numerous bridges collapsed in the country, isolating thousands of people, and many cities were completely flooded and impossible to travel through. In Central America and Nicaragua and the Honduras, Iota destroyed thousands of homes and killed dozens of people. Flash flooding made it impossible to travel through most areas, and mudslides destroyed more structures. Iota was a very catastrophic hurricane and the most catastrophic in the season, as a Category 5. Overall, Iota killed at least 61 people and may have killed as many as 200, and Iota also caused at least $2 billion in damage. Overall, the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season spawned 31 depressions, 30 tropical storms, 13 hurricanes, 6 major hurricanes, and in total, at least 431 people were killed, and at least $46.9 billion in damage was caused. The total amount of storms is tied with 2005, the other most hyper hurricane season.